We welcome now Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy to talk about this. Governor, it's insane. I mean, as Michael Waltz just said, replacing one dictator's oil for another dictator's oil. It's just as dirty, that oil, in more ways than one. We'll get into that in a moment. But we just heard Jen Psaki say the president's doing everything he can to try to ease the pain for U.S. consumers. Is that true? I mean, is he doing everything he can to ramp up domestic production?
Not in the universe I exist in, David, or your universe that you exist in. This makes no sense at all. I can recall as a young man sitting in my father's car during the oil embargoes, the Arab oil embargoes, just hoping to get some gas within a couple hours. And now here we were just a couple years ago, energy independent, energy giant, and now we're giving it all back. I can't imagine for a moment what the conversations would be if this was something playing out, let's say in Iran, where the Ayatollah would say, I know we have a lot of oil, but we really don't want to use it. So let's go ask America or someone else to underwrite our energy needs. It makes no sense from any angle whatsoever. This is basically what we're dealing with now with Russia is blood oil, just like the blood diamonds in Africa. This is a regime that doesn't care about the environment. Right now, obviously, doesn't care about people. And for us to keep underwriting this makes no sense at all when we have all of the energy we need right here in America.
Yeah, just to your point, by the way, Governor, I used to cover Latin America. I would fly over these fields in the Venezuelan oil country where you would see these horrible signs of pollution. It's between 2010 and 2016. This is according to an independent group. The Venezuelan oil giant, it's known as PDVSA. This, by the way, what we're looking at is our oil spills in the water in the region around where the oil is produced. But there were more than 46,000 spills of crude and other pollutants between 2010 and 2016. I mean, this is the dirtiest oil producer. Besides the fact the government's dirty, it's a narco-terrorism government. The way they produce oil is dirty. And if they're holding back, if the administration here is holding back on domestic production because they're worried about the environment, why the hell are they releasing Venezuelan oil?
This has been our case for some time. This makes no sense at all. If you truly, truly care about the environment, you'll do it here in America. And that's why there's a number of us starting to think this is really not about the environment at all. This is about social engineering, shoving down America's throat the concept that we're going to dispense with oil, we already dispense with coal for the most part, probably dispense with nuclear, so that we can power this country through renewables. And don't get me wrong, I think we should be doing both. I think we should be all in on our energy policy. I think the Biden administration, I've said this before, should declare it an emergency nationwide on energy to flatten down the regulatory process, to shorten that process, the study process, get as much energy online as soon as possible. Right. We do that, we drive down the price at the pump, we drive down the cost of transportation, goods and services across the board. We help our allies and we starve our enemies of the cash that they want. None of what's happening makes any sense at all. I feel like, an old Star Trek show, like I've been beamed up to another planet.
And by the way, you can be for all of the above. You can be for renewable energy, for solar, for wind, et cetera. But, there's one thing about solar and wind. You can't ship it overseas. You can't turn it into LNG and ship it to the Europeans, who are also suffering, who also need to have some kind of separation from Russian oil. By the way, even Elon Musk, Mr. Electric Car himself, tweeted out on Friday, I hate to say it, but we need to increase oil and gas output immediately. Extraordinary times demand extraordinary measures. Obviously, this would negatively affect Tesla, but sustainable energy solutions simply cannot react instantaneously to make up for Russia oil and gas exports. I think he's right on point.
I do too. This war would be brought to a quicker conclusion if our European allies knew that we would supply their energy needs. But since it's in doubt and they don't know this, we're not sure if we're going to sanction Russian oil. But I can tell you what's happening. We're sanctioning our own oil. We're sanctioning ourselves. We're penalizing Americans. We're penalizing the energy sectors here in America. None of it makes any sense at all unless this is all about social engineering at any cost. And I have to tell you, at the rate of inflation and this war, if this doesn't bring home the stark reality of the policies of this administration, nothing will. The world is hurting. we're going to start hurting. It makes no sense. We can do it here in America, protect the environment, help bring this war to come to a quicker conclusion by not financing it, and take care of Americans. It makes no sense, David, none at all.
Governor, I'm sure you've heard the White House counter-argument that, in fact, there are thousands of these oil leases that they've approved of on government land, and they're free to do that if they want. They're free to drill oil. It's the producers' fault. They're the ones that are at fault for the diminishing oil output in the United States. To which you say what?
Keystone Pipeline? That was killed by this administration. That's not producers. That's a policy that killed this pipeline that would have brought several hundred thousand, I think 800,000 barrels of oil from Canada through the United States to help us help our allies. That's just one example. And more leases here in Alaska. The coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge was set aside for oil development. And that was passed in law under President Trump. We sold the leases. Now they're slow boating and backtracking on those leases. Not really, David. There's policies occurring with this administration that clearly indicate they don't want oil and gas, and for reasons that make no sense to anyone in this country.
What about the call for banning all oil coming in from Russia? We've heard different reports that the administration is for or against it. Would you favor that?
I think that's a method by which you could starve the Russians of the dollars that they need, the money that they need, I should say, and limiting their ability to keep this war in a protracted state. I think we should be doing everything we can to bring this war to a close, short of a hot war with the United States. But I think what it is the European allies need to know that if we do close off the oil and gas supply from Russia, in order to bring this war to a quicker close, that America is going to step up to the plate and do what it does best, produce energy like nowhere else in a cleaner fashion. So I personally think we should sanction the oil. I think we should also close off the gas. We have the ability to help our allies. But let this be a lesson to everybody. If you have to cozy up to certain regimes and dictators and ayatollahs for things like energy that run our societies and our civilizations, you put yourself in a very, very precarious situation. We don't have to do that. The Europeans are finding that out the hard way. Right. We really should stop these conversations with our adversaries and really have a conversation with ourselves and say, let's get going. Let's do what America does best and produce as much energy as possible.
By the way, Governor, I'm looking at the monthly field production of oil month by month over the past, goes back 20, 30 years here. And oil went from 13 million barrels per day. That was the average in December 2019. It's gone down from 13 million to 11.5 million barrels per day in December of 2021. Can we, if we got some kind of green light from the administration, could we get back that 1.5 million barrels that we're missing now?
I think if this administration sent a strong message that we're going to be consistent and long-term in our energy perspective, I think you would have investors invest down in the Permian, up in the Bakken. I think you would certainly have investors invest in Alaska. We have a permit-ready gas line concept ready to go and copious amounts of gas that we can serve America and our Asian allies. But the signal needs to come from this administration. But as long as they're looking around the world and asking questionable regimes to help us out with our oil and gas, I think investors are gonna wonder and scratch their heads if this administration is serious.
Well, this is a worldwide emergency. The world is at risk. It's not just the United States, and we have to step up to the plate. We just have to do it. Governor, thank you so much for being here. Governor Dunleavy from Alaska. Appreciate it.